Welcome to the BCM Podcast. I am today's host, Michael Searle. Brad made it, and he's at the bottom. I'm trying to read his headline, but he's here.
Congress paid $17 million in settlements. Here's why we know so little about it, because it's Congress.
I want to know about this. And then Charles in the top left.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good.
Great. To be fair, $17 million in settlements, I mean, for Congress. It's not.
Well, it's taxpayer money that they paid out, I believe, for some, nefarious settlements, if you catch my drift about Congress.
Indeed, I do.
And it just, it relates to what's going on in the news. I don't know if you knew this.
Congress hush money payments.
Exactly.
Yeah. Got it.
Not allowed to do that.
Well, today we have a great guest. If you want to let her in.
Okay. We'll start the introduction.
Let's just go. Oh, yeah. Welcome to the BCM Podcast. We are your hosts. Today we're going to be talking with State Representative Ellen Troxclair. There she is.
Hello.
If you don't know her, she was formerly an Austin City Council member, first elected to serve House District 19 in when? 2020? Is that right?
No, it was 20. What year? What year is it? 2024. I mean, I've been in office like 16 months, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, not COVID, 2022. And on a personal note, she's the mother of 3 beautiful little kiddos.
That you may or may not hear at some point in the background. Sorry.
That's okay. We're very interested in their opinions about what's going on in the world.
Oh, they have a lot to say. Don't believe you me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining, Ellen. How are you?
I'm doing great. There is just, there's never a dull moment in policy and politics, and threading the needle between the two is just a wild ride. So I'm excited to talk with my fellow political nerds today and, get an update on what's going on in the world.
Yeah. So a lot happened on Tuesday here in Texas, which I think we'll get to, but there's, some news that happened yesterday. If you're not paying attention, the New York convicted Trump on 34 counts for the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels or whatever they're talking about. And he's facing, I heard that the sentencing they put 4 days before the RNC when he'll officially become the nominee for the party. And I heard that he's facing 4 to 134 years in prison for this conviction. So they said they can give him 4 years per count, or he can serve it concurrently, meaning 4 years for all counts. So it could be in that window. So one
seems legit.
Yeah. Super legit. Yeah. So do you think he's gonna serve a day in jail, or what do you think, Ellen?
Oh, I can't imagine that to be the case, but you know what? The more that the left comes after him like this, the more of a martyr they are making him, the more money he is raising, the more his popularity is soaring. So I don't understand how they haven't gotten that message yet, considering that this is not the first time that we've seen this like backlash of reaction of outpouring of support. People who were I really think that they're risking people who were on the fence or who, didn't love him before. They're going to say, well, I do believe in the rule of law being applied equally to everybody and not going after political opponents. And I think it's going to have the exact opposite effect of what they hope, but they can't see through their own bias. So it's ultimately going to be a detriment. No, I don't think he goes to jail. And if he does, you better believe he's going to raise a ton of money from it.
Do you think that this is their final goal, just to get him to, now they can say, well, he's a convicted felon. Surely they're not going to stop here, right? They're going to just keep pushing. Their ultimate goal has to be get him off the ticket, not let him run.
Yes, which has been the consistent goal for a long time, and no matter what they have done, whether it's through the states or through the mug shot. I mean, you've seen time after time after time that they're trying to get him to go away. They're trying to get him off the ballot, and of course they want the talking point that, are you really going to vote for a felon for president? But I just they need some new strategists over at the DNC.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I can't help but to think, like, how bad do you have to miscalculate something time and time again? From the inflating his assets case when the judge ruled against him and they rallied around him, through the E. Jean Carroll case when they ruled against him and they rallied. Like, every single time this happens, we see what happens, but yet they keep doubling and tripling down. And I don't know if we're not seeing the same world here, or like why they think it's going to work this time. Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Different worlds for sure. And I would say nobody on this call is a Trump. Well, I can speak for Charles, Brad, and myself. We're not Trump sycophants. Like, I'm totally winnable for the Robert Kennedy camp as a voter, right. But I'm like going to go donate to Trump. Like, it's making me, as you're pointed out, like more sympathetic to him and more inclined to vote for him and support him because they're going after him so hard. It's having the opposite effect. I saw a Google Trends screenshot of like people searching the terms Trump and donate. And it's like, going on this little, and then yesterday it shoots through the roof. He raised $38 million since his conviction.
Well, I don't know if it was a joke or not, but I saw someone posting screenshots from his site where the donate page had crashed. And so I apparently a lot of people did. And then I saw a number of tweets from people who, I don't know if they would consider themselves independent, but they weren't necessarily Trump fans, who were saying I'm now probably going to vote for him because of this, because it just keeps going and going and going. And it's a bad calculation on their part. It's a really bad calculation.
Yep.
So does he win?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still in the camp of he's not actually going to run against Biden, but
who do you think? You still don't think he's going to be on the ticket, or you don't think Biden's going to be on the ticket?
I still don't think Biden's on the ticket.
I don't think they're gonna sneak attack someone else in there, but I don't think it'll be enough to overcome Trump's trajectory in support at this point.
But when does the big switch happen?
Brad has been asking this for the past year.
After the convention. I don't know.
After the convention?
At the convention, I would say, right?
After.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. We're speculating.
I mean,
leave it to the same strategists, okay? I'm sure they have a great plan.
Ellen, these two goons have been telling me that it's going to be he's going to get replaced, and he's going to get replaced with Michelle Obama.
I think.
Do you think it's going to be Michelle Obama if they replace him?
I think it's a distinct possibility.
Okay. All right. We'll see.
We'll see what happens. I don't think you can put that again, though. I mean, he can't put two sentences together. He can't put two words together. It can't be him.
Yeah. Well, I don't see how it's him.
Well, our first debates are next month, so that should be fun, right? June 28th or 6th or something
7th.
Like that. 7th? Oh, both around it. That should be fun. Yeah. I don't know, though, anymore about the Michelle Obama thing, because clearly the strategists don't know what they're doing. And if they did, they probably would put Michelle Obama. But instead, they're probably going to put someone else. So at this rate, who knows?
Kamala. Well, speaking of Trump got heavily involved here in Texas. Primaries that just went on, the primary runoffs that just happened. He endorsed David Covey against Speaker Phelan and a number of other races. Covey fell short, or Phelan won it, however you want to look at it. How is that playing out in the House, and what's going to happen in the upcoming session related to the Speaker?
There are a lot of moving parts, even as we speak. But I think when you look at the massacre that happened to incumbents, whether with the help from bad decision making on the part of House leadership, and Abbott really digging in on school choice and going after the members who are just continued to refuse to do what's best for Texas kids. You saw the grassroots really rise up and kind of really have unprecedented losses for incumbents. It's hard to beat incumbents, and a bunch of them lost. So the general won, though, right? So it's like you got the speaker made it, but a lot of his troops died. And so I think when you look at the kind of Phelan has said this in the past, that his number one job is to protect the membership, to allow them to kind of vote their districts and protect them and make sure that they come back. That did not happen. So if that's what the job performance is being based on, I think it's going to be hard for him to, he is the incumbent, and there has been some good conservative legislation passed, under his rule, but there are a lot of other people who are, I think, capable of being principled conservatives, and it might be time for a new face at the helm. So we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks. I will say it's likely the decision, of what really happens doesn't technically. I mean, according to the Republican caucus bylaws, Republicans elect the speaker within the caucus. That is to avoid, what happened in the Strauss era, where you had the entire Democrat caucus join with 11 Republicans to elect technically a Republican speaker, but really who was controlled by Democrats. I think that you're heading in that same. I think you're heading in that same direction now, and I think that's a very difficult talking point to go back to the grassroots with, especially for these members who have just been through brutal primaries. I mean, a lot of them are at the end of their political rope. They don't have any more political capacity to spend on a sinking ship. So we'll see. I'm sure I'm going to be get in trouble for kind of speaking my mind here, but I mean, it just is what it is. It's not for or against any person or thing, but like, this is politics. This is the reality. A lot of his biggest lieutenants did not return. There's a void to be filled, and are people willing to sign up for the same thing, or are there going to be other people? And there are already other people who have stepped up. I mean, you see Tom Oliverson stepping in, already announcing even before the primaries. Shelby Slauson announced yesterday. It would not surprise me if we had a couple of other names pop up. But there's some divisions. There's some real true divisions, both on policy and on politics, that are forming on the Republican side of the aisle.
I appreciate your honesty, because I feel like that's what people, if anything, in my opinion, I think that's what this primary was about, was people wanting that honesty about the state of things, and they feel like they've not gotten that, and it's just kind of been, I don't know, just a lack of transparency about what's going on and how people feel. And so I think it's important. And it's like, nothing you're saying is it personal? It's just fact. Like, it's just how it worked out and how it went down. And so, but you say a number of names. Is one of those names may be Ellen Troxclair?
Oh, no, I'm quite good. Michael will tell you that I'm a policy person at heart, and I'm willing to be a team player, but my happy place is like in the weeds of school choice, or tax policy and lowering property taxes, or, I want to, my new mission is to ban phones in schools. So I want to see policy across the line. I have a young family and a business, and I don't, politics or power in politics is not my identity. So I'm going to continue to focus on on making policy. We have gotten so off track in personalities and specific personalities of this person's good or bad, this person's good or bad. And we've really gotten away from what defines you as a Republican or as a conservative is supposed to be how you feel about individual liberty, how you feel about economics, how you feel about free markets, how you feel about school choice, about all these, and there used to be these bellwether issues, whether or not you were for or against school choice, and whether or not you were for or against taxpayer funded lobbying, were two that, that the grassroots wanted to ask on the campaign trail to separate the, true conservatives from the more moderates. And that narrative has been completely lost and really replaced with personality. So my part of what I want to see, and, I am truly, if you're doing this for the right reasons, you're giving up a lot to be there. And so if I'm going to be at the Capitol instead of with my kids or working on my business for, endless hours on end, it has to be because I know my time is being invested in making Texas better. I'm not there to, make friends or be a nice guy. I had somebody on the radio the other day say, I'm just mad at Abbott for going after these people who voted, these good Republicans who voted against school choice because they're such nice guys. And I said, would you vote for me if my campaign slogan was, I'm a nice girl?
Right.
There's nice people who can do a lot of things in the world. You can go be whatever you want, but if you're going to be a state representative, you have to be more than a nice person. You have to be principled and want to get something done. So for me, all of this, the craziness, I've been through 2 brutal primaries. I've been through, a special session and 4 special sessions. I have a district of 5 counties. I'm always on the road traveling. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it because I know I'm going to be an essential part of getting kids out of failing schools and giving them the opportunity to proceed, or some big picture thing that's truly going to change the trajectory of people's lives in Texas.
So is that going to happen this session, do you think, the school choice? And what does it look like? Is it going to be like true school choice?
I do. Well, there's no question that universal school choice is the barometer. And people get that term universal, gets thrown around a lot, and people are like, well, what does that really mean? It means that no one is specifically excluded. It doesn't mean that a light switch is going to flip tomorrow and anybody and everybody can just, have their tax dollars back and go to whatever school they want to. It means that we are setting up a program where there's tiers and buckets because we have to control the appropriations somehow, right? And we want to make sure that great public schools are succeeding. And I'm a product of great public schools because my parents could afford to live in an area with great public schools, which is not the case. So at the end, I honestly think though the 2 factions, right? It's for the past 20 years, it's been kind of teachers unions and public school bureaucracy against any form of school choice. And we've seen along the way a lot of different things try. Well, how about if we just do for special needs kids? How about if we just do it for this, for that? But now 30 other states have passed some sort of school choice program. We've seen the amazing results. We've seen that outcomes for all groups of children, including children in public schools, get better. So the deal that was on the table last session, at the end of this last special session, was a $6 billion infusion in public school financing. So a massive investment, financial investment, one of the biggest, I think the biggest in recent history. So we're giving the public schools more money. And we met all of their criteria as far as, we want to make sure that there's that the money, that there's accountability, that, maybe that kids who are taking the money have to take a standardized test to make sure that the money is being used properly, all these other things. So we kind of met every hoop that they wanted us to jump through. And the school choice portion was only 500 million. So you had 6 billion. And that doesn't even include, already the massive amount of money we spend in public schools. So a massive amount of money on one side and 500 million on the other side. So it would have been, and the program would have been prioritized. The kids who would have gotten the money are first and foremost, disabled kids who are economically challenged. So that's the people who are going to get the majority of the money. From there, it's economically disadvantaged kids, and from there, I think it's kids in failing schools, and from there, it's everybody else. So this was not rich kids already have school choice. Their parents are already have the ability to send them to whatever private school they want. This program is specifically intended to prioritize the poor kids who are trapped in failing school districts. So all that to say, I know this is in the weeds a little bit, but all that to say, they had an amazing deal on the table. And they still said no, and they still, fought tooth and nail, and the governor dug in as he said he was going to. And the people who claimed that they were representing their districts, right? That was the argument. well, I'm representing my district. When Ernest Bales stood up there and voted against the bill, said, I'm representing my district, and my district does not want school choice. Well, guess what? He had a pro school choice candidate run against him, and he lost. So I guess that wasn't true after all. So now you have a much more friendly House. I think you have 77 members who, in one way or another, are supportive of school choice. And I think that they've lost their leverage. I think the people on the anti-school choice side had a great deal on the table, and they went for the kill and they lost. And now they've lost their leverage. So it's going to be interesting to see. But at the end of the day, like, it's about the kids, it's about the kids. So I'm going to support the program that helps the most kids. The good schools are going to continue to thrive. Parents want to send their kids to a great local public school. Like, that's everybody's, that's everybody's goal. But for the kids who don't have that option right now, we've got to give them some choices.
Yeah. So you mentioned it's a math game, right?
Yeah.
It's can you get the votes in the House? You just said 77. That's pretty narrow.
It is.
Are there any, I'm getting into the politics now. I know you like the policy, but are there House seats that are in kind of purple districts where there are strong school choice proponents who could be beat by Democrats in a presidential year? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if any of you guys do, but that would be my next thought on such a thin majority of 77. Is there anybody that's vulnerable to losing a Democrat in the general that could change that?
I would say you have Janie Lopez, who is in a swing district down in the Valley, but I think the Valley, we've seen that the Valley has increasingly come over to support Trump. And so maybe, but this is the thing that the left still does not grasp is that this is a winning issue. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, every parent wants the best education for their kid. This is a winning message, and it polls incredibly well across Republicans and Democrats. So while there is, technically a slim margin, and when we're talking about 77, that doesn't include that. Those are people who voted for the bill last time. But one thing that's always true about politics is people like to be on the winning side. And we've now shown the momentum is on this side. And I think that you will have a handful of Democrats who kind of say, you know what, I see the writing on the wall. I also see that this is best for my district. And I'm going to come over as well. So I think there's going to be, I don't think that's going to be the final number. I think that's going to be a starting number that is going to help to build the momentum.
I have a question. A lot of people will say, in response to school choice, right? They'll say, well, we just need to fund schools more. We just need to give them more money, right? And that's the problem. Teachers need to be paid more. Schools need more money. School choice already exists. You can pay your taxes and a private school tuition if you really want to, right? Is it a funding issue for schools? Is that why an underperforming school is not performing well, is because they don't get enough money?
You guys will appreciate this in your connection with Austin politics. When I was on the Austin City Council, the constant question we asked about the homeless issue, because it was always, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money to solve the homeless crisis in Austin. Okay, how much money will solve it? How much money will make sure that, and there was never an answer. Nobody actually, it was just always more than whatever it is. And that has been my experience on this issue as well. It's like, how much do you need? But also when you look at it from a free market perspective, anything that is a monopoly where you don't have any real competition. I mean, yes, okay, a small group of wealthy individuals have school choice, but you don't have real widespread competition. The product that you get is going to be more expensive and less effective. And you talk about teacher pay. Well, the funding for schools has significantly increased over the past 2 decades. And that money has gone to the money that the districts have allocated the money to growing the administration. They haven't put it towards teacher pay. And that's not the state's, it's not the state's job. The districts on one hand say, well, we don't want micromanagement from the state. But on the other hand, when they don't pay their teachers enough from the budget that they have control over, they turn around and blame it on the state. So like which one is it? And then the reality is we're not getting the results. Like when you look at the chart of how much money has been infused into public schools, you also see that we still have at least 60% of fourth graders in the state of Texas who cannot read on grade level. What are we doing? Like we're spending upwards of $15,000 per child per year. That is a private school tuition. But we're spending it in public schools. Every single taxpayer, they're spending that regardless of whether they have kids in public schools or not. And when we're spending $15,000 per child per year, and we're getting results that 60 to 70% of our fourth graders can't read on grade level, like something is wrong here. And we cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. So I am all for, if you really have a number and you are willing to commit to an outcome, like if I give you this money, here's what you're going to do with it. And here's the improvement that we are going to see within this amount of time with this group of students. Great. But they never want the accountability that comes with it because they have a monopoly, because they don't have to have it. So we just have to inject. And again, it's a small program that we're going to start out with. We know what works. We know what doesn't work based on what's going on with other states. We're not going to create something that's going to get out of control quickly. We're going to create a program where we can have proven results. And the reality is only about 2%, even in states that have full on, much bigger universal choice programs, only about 2% of children decide to leave their public schools in the first 5 years. So this idea of like the sky is going to fall and rural schools are going to be destroyed and people are going to leave. They say that, but then they also say, well, we don't have any other choices here and it's not fair to us because we don't have any other options. Well, those are mutually exclusive. So which one is it? And by the way, we have the data. We know that we know the sky will not fall, but we do know that kids in AISD who are being taught that they can't use the words mom and dad because they're gender specific, like, hello, that is why kids are leaving your school district. It's not because of charter schools. Like teach them math, reading, and writing, and you'll get to keep the money.
But the weird part is that they'll claim that if you pass school choice, right, like you said, that our schools are going to be empty, the kids are going elsewhere. I mean, it's an admission that what you're doing is not working. Then, like that's an admission that clearly what you are doing is not working. If you're afraid that bringing in competition means your school's going to shut down, and you hear that out of HISD all the time. And I don't doubt that if we had school choice, people would flee from HISD because it's a horribly run school district that's been taken over by the state for that very reason. In the past 6 months, there have been no fewer, I think, than 7 teachers that have been found in some incident of sexual assault with a child. There was one this past week that was recording OnlyFans content in her classroom. They reported on the news earlier this week. Obviously, kids were not in the classroom when she was doing it, but nonetheless.
I don't know if that's obvious, Charles. That is not necessarily obvious.
But it's like, it's absurd. And so I would have more respect for the anti-school choice people if they would admit that it's just like a protectionism thing and they're just trying to protect the money that they have and the teachers and the unions and all of that, rather than claiming that they're doing this for the kids, because it's obvious that they're not. I mean, it's so frustrating. It really is.
Well, and just to add on to that point, I want to reiterate that we have some great superintendents. We have some great school board members. I mean, heck, Bernie ISD, people are leaving San Antonio and buying, property in Bernie so that they can go to the Bernie ISD schools. And they know, and I don't think they're not as scared of school choice because they know, we're doing a great job of listening to our parents, of serving our students, and our parents want to be here. They don't want to have to seek something else. So it's this problem that the unions often do. Solving for the lowest, to protect the lowest common denominator is not going to be, that strategy has only gotten them so far. I think we're gonna see the other side of it here this coming session.
Well, I think that the union issue is also one of politics. They're an arm, an agent of the Democratic Party, and the policy is driven from a national level, and there's all the DEI stuff and like all the alternative history stuff, and they're just infusing that into the schools, and it's making them horrible, and then people want to leave them. But one thing I would want to see the legislature look at, which I think you guys will, I don't know that it'll pass this session, but we need to look at, I think Briscoe called it paycheck protection. I call it union dues, automatic deductions from paychecks. Like, all that money is going to this political arm that's protecting power and hurting outcomes for kids in schools.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
I'd love to reopen that conversation. That was popular. The policy was popular from the Republicans for a while, and then it kind of just fell off. I'd love to see that come back. But I do want to hear about this banning cell phones in schools, because I remember in school the teacher would just either take the phone or take the battery, and you can't take batteries out of phones anymore. So I want to, and I do think that cell phones in class, like, it's obviously a huge issue, especially nowadays where every kid actually has one. So I would love to hear more about that.
Well, you must be a spring chicken, because I, for one, did not have I did not have a cell phone when I was in school. So I'm aging myself a little bit. But I mean, the visual is, yes, we are all attached. I mean, adults too. We're all addicted to our phones as well. Every one of us, has our phones within arm's reach right now. But imagine that when you were in school, your mom was like, "Hey, son, grab your boombox, pack up the TV, get together all your walkie-talkies, and once you get to school, make sure you set them all out on your desk, turn them all on at the same time, and maybe watch some porn or some beheading videos, or just generally entertain yourself. But make sure you have all that right out on your desk when the teacher's trying to teach." It's insane. Like, the fact that we have let it get this far is crazy. But that's what we've done. We have given kids a portal into endless distraction, oftentimes with wildly inappropriate content. We've also given, pedophiles and abusers direct line of communication to our kids, which is crazy. But the reality is, like, we are the adults in the room. And school, I know it's okay, call me crazy, but schools are supposed to be where kids learn, right? Like, it's supposed to be for education. And yet we know that it's impossible to expect that from our children when we've set them up for failure, right? And we see that most districts, I mean, if you ask them, most districts technically have something in their policy that say no phones in the classrooms. Is that enforced? Absolutely not. Are they FaceTiming each other between classrooms? Yes. I mean, are they looking at, you can hide it behind a book. They're being used to cheat. The grades all of a sudden in 5th period are way better than the grades in 1st period because pictures of the tests have been circulated. But more than that, actually the most pressing thing is that it's leading to isolation, depression, and suicide, especially among our young girls. And so the least that we can do for them is to give them 7 hours of uninterrupted time where their brains are not tethered to these constant notifications. And so, there was a book that just came out, An Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. It has really gone viral. And you really see, because he's not telling us anything that we don't know to already be true. I don't have to sit here and make an argument to you guys or to your audience that smartphones are doing some weird stuff to our brains, and that social media is not good for us, and that the addiction is real, right? We have all of this data. So it's just, we're to the point now where, well, is anybody going to do something about it? You see it kind of catching up. Governor Huckabee Sanders sent a letter to 50 governors within the last 2 weeks saying, I'm going to follow this book. Here's a copy of this book. There's 4 tenets in it. It's like no smartphones before 18 or before 16. I think no social media before 18, more free play, and finally, no phones in school. So as a legislator, as a parent, I hope that the parents can come together and collectively adopt those first 3 policies. As a legislator, and as who has a responsibility to the students and also to taxpayers to make sure that this amount of money that we're going to fund public schools is actually going towards education. And so putting while I wish school districts would adopt this, immediately on their own and really enforce it. And we've seen success in the schools that have done that. They need the encouragement. And the state's the bad guy for a lot of different things. Hey, I'm fine with the state being the bad guy to make sure that our kids are allowed to have their brains developed before they're getting on phones in classrooms.
It seems like a slam dunk issue. I can't imagine. I mean, I know personally, I'm a parent of 3, and my kids are not old enough for cell phones. I don't know if they ever will be old enough for cell phones. I don't know if I'm old enough for a cell phone. Yeah. But you're talking about school districts already have the policy, right? But it's just not really enforced. So now the state comes in, and the state might say, this is not allowed in public schools or whatever. If you receive public money for schooling, you can't have cell phones in the school. What would be the enforcement mechanism in that case? Would they remove funding? How do you make sure it's enforced?
I think the better way to go, we're still working through some of the details. I'm still working on drafting the legislation. But the places where it first of all, you need full buy-in from the superintendent and the administration. I was encouraged to read a middle school, again, not even a high school, a middle school, I think in Ohio, that put it into place and using yonder pouches. So, yonder pouches, these neoprene magnetic locking things that if you go see Joe Rogan, you got to put your phone into it because you have your phone with you, but you can't access it. So they instituted a policy where when you come in, you hand you get your yonder pouch, your phone goes in it. It's locked. It can stay with you, either in your locker or in your backpack. And when you're finished for the day, there's a unlocking thing as you walk out the door. And so that's not even it's not even classrooms. That's more like kind of campus wide, where even during lunch, they were shocking, but during lunch, kids were forced to make eye contact with each other, maybe even talk. And there was some resistance at first. So that, of course, the students, my life is ending. What are we going to do without our cell phones? These adults are so mean to us. The teachers, oh my gosh, I have not talked to a single teacher. And this is a good follow-up to our school choice conversation, because when teachers, feel like they've been kind of left in the dirt by for a lot of different reasons, like this is something that could massively help them, because they're the ones that right now they're having to control 30 different teenagers that are on their phones, and they don't have the capacity to control that. So teachers love it, administration love it, and eventually the students love it too, because 2 months later they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I love being freed from the constant notifications, from the constant pressure, and I actually am making friends. So the results are there, but I don't know. You said it's a slam dunk, and who would oppose it? Michael, I know you.
I was in a meeting with Jeff Arnett, superintendent of Eanes ISD, which is one of the top performing school districts in the state of Texas, and he was talking to me about mental health of students. And they have all these mental health professionals, and the teachers are having to do some mental health work with kids. Like they're having to manage that. That's not their job. There's teachers, not mental health professionals. I was like, why don't you just take phones out of schools? I mean, that's not a fix to everything, but it's something that could be done. And he laughed at me. And the laugh wasn't like, you're stupid. The laugh was like, I will be accosted, not by students, but by parents. Was what he thought. He thought he would be attacked by the parents who feel like their kids need to have the phones so that they can contact them at any point during the day. So I think that some of the pushback is actually going to come from parents who are, as Jonathan Haidt would say, coddling the American mind. They're safetyism parents, like helicopter moms and dads who their kids can't get away from their phone for 5 seconds for fear of what might happen.
But I yeah, that's exactly right. That there are some helicopter parents who are initially like, well, what if I need to get a hold of my kid for this? So but the pendulum is swinging back. Like I would say, parents are starting to realize, okay, this is doing a lot more damage than it is good, and they're tired of arguing with their teens about it too, right? I mean, they're having to set policies. We're talking about school policy, but they're having to argue with their teens about this when they're not at school, and so I think they would be grateful for the cover too. There is going to be some pushback. Pushback that I have heard so far is, well, what about school safety? I need to be able to get in touch with my child at all time, or what if something bad happens? Well, they're still going to have their phones with them. They're still going to, be reachable. You can cut into a yonder pouch if you need to. There's still landlines. The teacher still has a phone. Like we were all in school, and we turned out without our phones, and we turned out okay. So you have to assure I think the majority of parents immediately love it and support it, but there are a small, loud group of parents that have to become comfortable with not having that instant access for their kid to their kids. But that can be overcome. The other, there are some kids who maybe use it to track their insulin, or, there's like a medical need that can be handled through a school nurse in between periods or whatever they need to do for that. But we have to break some parents' impression that their phones make their kids safer because they can get a hold of their parent at any time. And that is so wrong, because we know that the danger is actually on the kid's phone, right? They're exposed to many more things on their phones than not. But I think the momentum, I think this book hit at the right time. I think the fact that it's gone so viral. I mean, you've seen the author on Oprah and the Today Show, and like he's everywhere. You see governors stepping up and talking about it. You see people like me being like, all right, let's do this. What do we need to do? So it's just about being bold and taking the courage to do it. And I plan on launching it and seeing how it goes. So watch out. I'm writing that we're going to publish next week. And, if people want to join the conversation or give me feedback, like I'd love for people to connect with me on social media. There you go, on social media, or send me an email, give me your feedback. Let me know if you can help, because it's not going to be as easy as you might think. And how is AT&T, how is big tech going to feel about this? Well, Facebook and Instagram and Mark Zuckerberg are going to push back tooth and nail, because we're taking away 7 hours of kids' eyeballs, having kids' brains monetized by them. That big tech is going to push back. How's AT&T going to feel? Are they going to push back? Are they going to see the light? So it's just going to have to take us really uniting, and always keeping the kids' interests in the front of our minds if we're going to get it done.
Yeah. Well, Charles, we just show that chart real quick, just for a visual.
Which chart?
I sent you guys a article in the chat. Like, this is all, I know it's not, this is all I think parents need to see that are worried about the safety of their kids. It's like,
1 second, pulling it up now.
This is a chart of teen mental health and depression over time.
I beat you.
And the introduction of social media and cell phones. Look at that.
Wow. That's crazy.
That is insane.
It's astonishing. Like that's why we take phones out of schools, because the risk of not doing something about this and not taking a chance and doing anything we can to get these things out of kids' faces is too great.
That's crazy. Wow. And for those parents who are concerned, like, whatever happened to just calling the office? Like, you need to get your kid. Like, what? You can't do that. It seems so easy. And it is interesting, though, because I feel like some people say that there isn't a psychological impact, but I think about things like the phantom vibrate that I feel sometimes when I think I have a notification and it never happened, and it's only because I'm always on my phone. And so I can only imagine that if my brain was still developing, like, all the impacts that has of constantly being on and constantly being notified, and also seeing all the horrific stuff. I go on Instagram and I see like 10 people die a day, and I don't like request this content. Like, it just pops up. And so I can only imagine what a lot of people or a lot of these kids are seeing. So, it's critically important. It's critically important. And I hope people kind of get on the bandwagon with this.
Here's a question. What's your at-home policy for kids? Like, is there an age where you're going to allow them to have a cell phone? Brad, Ellen, I'm just interested personally if you want to share.
I'll let Ellen go first, but I'm happy to answer.
So my kids are 7, 6, and 4, and I'm so glad that I was not 10 years earlier, because I don't know that I would have, there is a gap there where parents just really didn't know the detrimental effects. But I would say, if I feel like I need to reach them, I'll get them a flip phone that doesn't have that's not a smartphone. But even then, I want it to be like high school, and definitely no social media until 18, and hopefully our society comes around by then and we're all off of it. But yeah, as late as possible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My son, so I'm similar boat, 9, almost 7 and 4. My oldest son asked for a cell phone. I'm like, absolutely not. You're a crazy person. I'm never going to buy you one. You'll be lucky if you get one when you're in high school. because I mean, I know how bad I've been affected by it, and I'm just too weak to get rid of it, right? And I see all these new dumb smartphones. They're black and white. You can't really surf the internet, and they seem so enticing. Like I wanna get one. But then if I get that and I start texting people, it's going to show up in green, and that's gross. You can't do that.
Oh, come on. No.
Well,
But-
I'm curious. While we're on this, I want to know what everybody else got their phones. But sorry, Brad, didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I just want to say, so I tried to explain it to my 9-year-old son. Like, he asked why can't you? Or he asked about online gaming. Why can't he do online gaming?
Mhm.
Like, listen, bud, you don't understand what it's like. If I put you in a room, like a physical room with 100 strangers, and they could say and do whatever they want. They can't touch you. They can't be physical, but they can say and do whatever they want otherwise. Does that sound like a fun situation for you? Like, no, that sounds awful. I'm like, yeah, it is awful. And that's what that's like, except for 100, it's 1 billion. And they can do whatever they want, and you can't stop them. Right. And so I think he kind of understood that that's not a great situation. But to answer your question, Charles, I got my cell phone when I think I was 16, maybe. I've had the same cell phone number since then. I'm kind of proud of that. Should I be?
Yeah,
I was 19. I didn't have a cell phone until college. I had a landline, a separate landline that you could call me at my house in my room when I was in high school.
What was the number?
530-468 something. I don't remember.
539-46.
530-468 something.
I don't believe you.
I think I was college too.
Oh wow, I was.
That's because we're old, Charles. Like,
Yeah.
it's not because our parents were like, you can't have this until you're in college. It's because they didn't exist. Like,
My first phone was a gray flip phone, Samsung, and I think I had like Worm on it or something.
yeah.
That game. That was Snake.
Now the
Whatever it was called.
I had a beeper in middle school, and then I got a cell phone in high school.
Why'd you have a beeper in middle school? Was it for that one website?
You can't go to websites on beepers. Like,
I know, but yeah, you put your beeper number up
so
there.
my mom could tell me when to call.
I think I had a beeper very briefly.
Like $9 a month. So
Yeah, so we've told the boys, like, we're not even having this conversation until 13 and like maybe a flip phone, but I don't know that it's going to happen for them. They're very bummed. They tell me that they're the only kid in their classes that does not have a smartphone, which probably isn't true, but
That means you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job.
And I probably told them too much. Like, I went into the depression and making them feel sad. And this is why we don't probably too much information, but I don't know. I think you just got to give them the information and let it sink in and see what they do with it. They still want cell phones.
Yeah.
But at least by the time they do get them, I think they'll be appreciative of how long you delayed it. Like, I think when they get to that point, they'll start to realize, like, oh, okay, I see. Like, not immediately when they get it, but later on in life, they'll be like, I'm glad that was.
Well, when do you get them a computer? I'm about to get my son a computer, a Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you guys know what a Raspberry Pi is, but it's like a real techie, like basic computer. You can kind of do it's very flexible. It's not super powerful, but you can code and stuff like that on it. And that's the reason why I'm getting it for him, but I'm still a little nervous about getting it for him because he wants to learn how to code. So I
think laptops are a totally different ball game, and especially if you are limiting, what they have access to, but it's not gonna cause the rewiring of their brain where they are the phantom, buzzing and the constant notifications. Like, if I'm on my laptop, I mean, I'm working, I'm typing, I have access to the internet, but like, even we know as adults, like, our phones are different. Our phones are on the table when we're having dinner. Our phones are with us all the time. Your laptop's with you, when you're doing some work or you have something that you need to accomplish.
Yeah, you got inspired. Yeah, it's different. You got inspired by Arjun, the kid out of Round Rock who he's like this 12-year-old kid that Brad interviewed on a podcast, and he's like this tech wizard, and he builds his mom websites for like Mother's Day gifts and stuff. Like, it's pretty cool. That kid was a high achiever, big time. So last question on schools. So once we get phones out of schools, And you're, like I said, when we talked earlier, you're a rising star. You're young. You're going to be in the party and involved for a long time. So once we get this phones out of schools, can we address the food?
Yes. Hey,
Okay.
hey, you lead that up, okay? Michael,
Okay.
State Representative.
And Ellen, this is no meat Mondays is not an acceptable option. We're not raising vegans.
We're not. Well, I'm not sure that meat on Tuesday is real meat either. So we have no meat every day.
Can we start with getting real meat into the schools?
Like just like real food. Yeah, that would be great. So that's definitely, the sugar addiction of my kids is, I mean, they will do anything for some ice cream. It's just like, whoa, we need to chill out, So yeah, there's hey, I can only solve one, world problem at a time, Michael. So I
That's
welcome
why I said
you
when
to.
we're done. I said when we're done, but
I'm gonna be tired by then.
Okay. All right. I'll find somebody else, or I'll just do it myself, because it's a real problem. The sugar thing. It's the same dynamic. It's a dopamine hit. It's addictive.
Yes.
Their brains aren't developed. They don't know what's good or bad for them. So they're just searching for that dopamine hit. And sugars, man, the health problems we have in this country that are caused by the stuff we put into our body, and we get them hooked at a very young age. It's just, anyways.
Well, I was gonna say, I always see this meme, and it's like, you wonder why kids randomly throw up in school, and you feed them pizza, chocolate milk, and Cheetos at 10 a.m.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Well, I think we're headed in the right direction. We got a lot of. It's going to be an interesting few months, leading into the November election, and then hopefully we have people in leadership who are ready to tackle those big issues. So. I'm excited about my small part in it. So thank y'all for shining the light.
Of course. Do you have anything else before we move off the legislature that you're going to be working on this session that you want to talk about?
Oh, yeah. The list is quite long, but so a few things that didn't quite get past the finish line last time. I had a bill supported by Riley Gaines to define what a woman is, or a woman's bill of rights. I know this call me crazy, but we have lots of things in Texas code, in Texas law that, are specific to women, and we don't have a definition of what a woman is. So I'm hoping that we get some more momentum behind that, and make sure that women's spaces and rights are kind of protected through defining biologically what that means. We have, of course, our Project Connect bill that we'll see what the status of that is going into next session. But making sure that local governments are not subverting state law and overtaxing people without telling them the price tag of a project or what they're really getting for it. So that one almost got across the finish line that I want to keep my finger on. And then what else? Oh, universal basic income programs. That was, I think that was the first bill I filed when I was elected, because I saw that Austin was just giving away free money, $1,000 per person. Not the right path. And that one didn't get across the finish line, but I think there's going to be more attention on it this time around, because it's continued to be an issue. Banning taxpayer funded lobbying. I have always felt very passionately about this issue. We have 11%, actually it's probably more now. Last time I saw this statistic, 11% of all the money spent on lobbying at the Capitol came out of a taxpayer's pocket. So, AKA you're paying your property taxes to a local government like Austin, who is turning around and hiring contract lobbyists to the tune of about $1 million a year, that is going up and fighting to kill, good legislation. They fought against property tax. They fought against lower property taxes. All the big liberal cities try to spend your money killing good bills. So I filed it. That issue's been around for a while, but I think it's finally becoming a front burner issue. So whether I'm the right person to carry that or whether someone else is, I'm excited to hopefully get that one across the finish line. I think that will really get the playing field a little bit more even. not only between rural cities and urban cities. Rural cities are not, they don't have the money. They're not doing that. So they don't have the same pull at the capital as the big cities do because of that. And also, of course, elevate the voices of the individual constituents. Okay, I could go on and on, but those are things that are like, in addition to school choice. I mean, those two, school choice and banning taxpayer funded lobbying would really change cycles that we're having trouble getting out of, and would be kind of generational change. So I think those are on the top of my list. But the left maybe the Austin City Council, they're always poking the bear, and so maybe they'll do something else completely ridiculous between now and then, and I'll have a new charge.
$2 billion climate tax rate election.
Oh gosh, come on. Yeah. We've got to stop it.
The same funding mechanism they're using, Project Connect, and the county's doing a tax rate election, and AISD is. So all of them are getting around revenue caps by floating big tax rate elections and lying to people about what they're going to get.
And then they all look at each other and wonder why nobody can afford to live here anymore.
Well, the affordability has been fixed, Ellen. I don't know if you know this. But
really?
Yeah. Well, they lowered. Now you can build on smaller lots, and affordability is going to be fixed. That's all that it takes. Is just smaller lots. That's all it takes.
I had no idea.
And it's working so well. They just passed yesterday. They're going to do forgivable loans for developers to build ADUs for low and middle income families, because that's how affordable it is, right, Charles?
Forgivable loans for really Austin, the city of Austin.
That's how affordable it is, Charles.
This is separate to do from your NIMBYism. That has nothing to do with it. Nobody, even YIMBYs aren't for forgivable.
I don't even know what these words mean, Charles. So what's the NIMBY?
Anyway, that's for another discussion.
What? I'm so glad, because if there's any group of people in this world who need more free money from the government, it's developers.
To be fair, the loan might go to the family, but the family then gives it to a developer. So it's just a handout for developers.
Yes, make it stop. Make it stop.
We can't.
We're gonna tax everybody out of our homes, but we're gonna keep up the fight. So I'm looking forward to it.
Ellen, Charles told me the other day that he thinks that the minimum lot size should be a 10 by 10. And I said that's a little bit small, but he said it's property rights, brother. And I said, okay. Well, is that too small?
Don't listen to anything he said.
Hey, I'm going to let you pump that one out, okay?
Some background here, Ellen. Charles is a YIMBY and Brad is a NIMBY. Yes. And they fight about NIMBY YIMBY issues every week, and I love it. And we're going to have a debate on it here pretty soon.
Ellen, everyone is an NIMBY about something, including Charles.
No. Oh, that is definitely true. No question. But
it's 100% true. So
yeah.
Anyway, Michael, take us away. Feel free.
Oh, I love watching you guys argue about YIMBY DIMBY. It's hilarious. It's too much fun. Well, we're coming at an hour now, so I think we should let Ellen go. Well, unless you guys have anything.
I have one question that I'd like to ask, if that's okay. And Ellen, you can opt not to answer.
I gotta go. I got like 31 notifications while we've been on this call.
I don't know if you know this, but I don't know if you noticed, but Charles and Michael have been looking at their phones the whole time. So, and you don't have to answer this question. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I want to ask you about one of your colleagues in the House, if that's okay. And you can say no comment, and that's fine. But he's rather insufferable online, in my opinion. That's not yours, that's mine.
Where are we going?
I have no idea.
I want to ask about.
I think
you know. Okay, well, I want to ask about Gene Wu. I don't know if he's insufferable online, and I think he enjoys it. It seems like he gets pleasure out of it, right?
Right.
I think people see that. Is he? I don't know. Maybe him or other people like him. Maybe we can be more general about it. Is the working relationship different than the online persona, or is it the same?
No. Yeah, you're seeing the true Gene Wu there. It's his latest defense of like pedophiles was a weird way to go. You know, it was like that's a weird thing to tweet out, Gene. But yeah, I don't. he really must like it. He really must like saying ridiculous things and then having everybody tell him that's a ridiculous thing to say. But I'm going to be collegial and say collegial. You know, he has every right to do that. But no, I don't agree with him, and I'm not sure that he's building a whole lot of respect by acting that way online.
Fair enough.
Gene Wu. Well, great. Well, I'm going to let you go. We're at an hour. So thank you so much for taking the time.
But
we can happily do it again. Whenever you want to break news, you can do it here on the BCM podcast.
Yes.
And we'd be happy to have you.
Hey, we got some children to go save.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us.
Whatever we can do to help.
And do I get to put a plug in if anybody does want to actually follow me on?
I'm a terrible host. Just plug yourself.
So you can follow me on all the places at Ellen Troxclair and keep up with what I'm doing. And see you there.
What's your website?
Troxclairfortexas.com.
We'll put the links down below.
Yes, we will.
Okay. Look at y'all. So fancy. All right. Well,
thanks, Ellen.
Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. That was fun.
Let's get phones out. I'm fired up. Let's get phones out of school. Yeah.
That's
and then food. Well, not get food. Don't take food out of school. Just take the bad food.
It's probably actually that would be an improvement. Getting the food out of school.
Yeah, it would be.
Making parents forcing them to provide food for their kids would probably, I don't know if it'd be better, but you'd have more success. I'm not saying we should do that. I'm just saying it's better than what
parents who rely on free and reduced lunch, Brad.
Oh, what about pounds of ugh, God, go get on your 10 by 10 lot.
All right. I don't think
great conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Great to finally get her on. I don't know that I have a lot more to contribute to the conversation at this point, so we were going to sign off. Don't forget, click the subscribe button. I forgot to say that in the beginning, so maybe I'll chop this up and put it in the beginning. And then follow us on social media. Share this with your friends. Hi, Miss Blain. Great to see you again.
You're still our favorite.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.